Hey, what's up? It's me, Maiden. I wanted to do a quick video about housing. Housing is a human right. I believe it is. There are 329.5 million people in the US. 5.2 million households rely on housing assistance or Section 8, public housing, these kind of programs, or housing subsidies. That's 5.2 million households out of 300 million. And when I just did the statistics, I had to check it a couple of times because I was like, am I seeing this correctly? That's a lot of people that need housing, that rely on housing assistance. There are different housing stabilization programs per state, things like that. Now, I live in Maryland, so the programs are going to differ depending on what state you live in. But I know firsthand about the Maryland housing assistance programs. I have been in pretty much all of them. I've had Section 8, Housing Choice Voucher Program. I lived in public housing at one point. I got rental subsidy. I think they call it MPDU, moderate price dwelling unit, I think is what it is. And that's where they take a percentage off of your rent. So let's say like my rent was $1,900, I think, when I moved in here for a 3-bedroom, and it got down to like $1,750 with the MPDU discount. So that's like $200 off, I guess. And that's like the least of the programs. I think it's like comparable to Section 8, I guess, depending. So, and there's all these lists and waiting lists, and sometimes you have to wait years. But the reason I wanted to do this video is I lost my housing subsidy several years back because I made too much money. And you might wonder, if you're not familiar with these programs, you might wonder, well, how is that possible? And I wanted to just do a discussion about it because it's like the system, I feel like, is designed to keep you dependent on the system, especially housing subsidies and assistance, because they base it off income. So if when you get into the program, you make a certain amount of money, let's say, you make minimum wage or something like that, you get a promotion or a raise, you have to immediately, like within 30 days, I think, submit that information so that they can calculate that. And then they add it to the subsidy, and then your subsidy goes down, basically. Which, yeah, if it's on a sliding scale, that makes sense to me, because it's like a program that's just supposed to be designed to, keep you regulated to where you can wean off of the system, let's say, in a perfect world, right? Well, I went from making, this was back in 2015, 16, something like that, 2017. I was a shampoo assistant in a salon, okay? I wasn't making a whole lot of money. I had 4 kids. I think I was making like $13 an hour or something like that, but I made buku bucks and tips, okay? And that's where they would screw me as far as like IRS, because I had to report all of that. And basically what they do is they take like the highest amount possible that you could probably make, and then they kind of have it to where it looks like you're making that. But when in reality, when you get cash for tips, it's spent like the week you make it. I mean, because you're spending it on gas or whatever, so it's really hard to regulate that. Well, anyway, I had, at that point, I had been in the system a little bit. I was a single mom and raising, my kids on my own. And so I had figured out, that exactly how much money I had to live off of every week. And, that in regards to that assistance I was getting, plus food stamps. And then, I was getting like health assistant, healthcare, medical, Medicaid. So I was getting, pretty good. I had it to almost like a perfect formula where I could have enough money to pay my bills, do what I needed to do as far as feed my kids, and we were living pretty comfortably. Where I messed up at, under the advisement of a guy I was dating, which he thought would help me, and it was, great in the beginning. His mom suggested I get this job at Comcast, so I got the job at Comcast, and it was a commission-based job. So I was making 15 an hour, 15.75 an hour, something like that, plus commission. Well, the commission was putting me in an upper, in a whole other bracket as far as like what I was making before as a shampoo assistant. You can imagine. Okay, I was making like, I don't even know because I'm really horrible with math. No, I shouldn't say that. I'm getting good with math. I'm going to give myself credit for trying. But let's just say, I remember at one point I claimed $55,000 on my taxes when I was working for Comcast. So before that, I was making maybe $30,000 as a shampoo assistant. Okay, so that tells you right there. So I submitted that paperwork and everything to the Housing Choice Voucher Program. They kicked it back so quickly, basically told me I was violating the program and all of this by making that much money. I was violating by trying to do better and get a better job. It sounds insane, right? But I reported, gave them my information about the job I was now getting. The thing is that with commission, it varies, right? Especially with Comcast, because the job I was working was in retention, and I would get paid based on people canceling their cable, canceling their internet phone service. Like even if they moved, that was striking against me and my commission. So you can see how quickly that would snowball into a financial disaster, because I had been getting pretty good about managing my money and all the bills and the program assistance and everything. I was living a pretty basic standard life and pretty standard basic way of living. I thought I was going to be doing better by getting a better job, getting off the system, because I slowly just didn't need as much help anymore. I didn't need to get food stamps. I really didn't need the housing subsidy anymore. So I was trying to wean off of it, but they kicked me right off of it and said, there was paperwork that said they would only be helping me with like $80 towards my rent based on my new pay structure. And that was based on me getting the highest commission possible I could get every month. But I wasn't getting that every month, because there was plenty of months, like let's say in the summertime when people are all moving, retention agents, well, this was how it used to be. This was like, I left Comcast about 4 or 5 years ago, but during the summer, we would struggle because people would be moving, and we would have to take our commission would have to take the hit for them moving. And then we also had a lot of cord cutting going on back then. That was when it was like not brand new, but it was starting to get more kind of like a common thing for people to cord cut. So that all happened when I was trying to make the highest commission possible. So you can see again how it was like a snowball effect, where I thought I was going to be doing better by getting a better job. I thought I was going to be getting off the system, and slowly it started to be where I was in financial crisis. I had bought a car because I was making good commission when I first started. And then about halfway through my employment experience, they started to change the commission structure. So they capped it off where we could only make up to a certain amount. And all of this was at the detriment of the employees. This is why to this day, I have a very big issue with big companies like Comcast and Xfinity and Verizon, Just please be kind to people when you call there. I think I've done a video on this before, where you just don't know what they may be going through to try to feed their families. I know sometimes it's annoying, the whole process of calling and all of that. Why is my light going down? Anyway, I think my battery's about to die, so I better make this quick. But I wanted to do this video just so you could understand the basics of housing assistance and housing programs. I'm going to do some additional videos where I talk more in depth about some of these programs and my experiences on them, so that you can, I know that there are some people going through financial and economic issues right now, so I think this might be helpful. Just because I'm talking about my area in Maryland, this may only help certain people, in certain circumstances, but I think a lot of these programs are more what do you call it? Nationwide, more than just, of course there's specific ones that are very specific to the states or counties that you live in. But there are some that go through HUD, which is a national program. Now, side note, I've also taken real estate classes, so I do know a little bit more than the average person that's just been in the system, I guess you could say. That's a bunch of BS too. I'm gonna do a whole entire video on that. But yeah, I'm gonna do a more precise video on how you get screwed when you are, either working with a voucher and you try to get a rental, and how they discriminate when they're not supposed to, and what your rights are. So I'm going to do a video on that, because I think more people need to be aware of what their rights are as renters, even as homeowners. There's a lot of things that aren't discussed, and if you're just an average person, you can, go off what the agents are telling you, but I've seen some pretty shady stuff going on, and I'm sure, if you have bought a house or tried to buy a house, you know what I'm speaking about. Anyway, that's for another video. But I just had an inkling to do this today, so hopefully this helps someone if you're able to see this and get something out of it. I think what I learned from it is, as much as I want to be honest, sometimes you got to know what you're getting into when you are honest with what you make and trying to get assistance. It may be counted against you, and I think that's wrong. I think there's a lot that needs to be changed in these systems, just like a lot of other things that are going on in this world today. But this is one of them that's just really just a passion of mine. Housing is a freaking passion of mine. I have to keep speaking about it. I get so annoyed when people say stuff about homeless people, or why don't they get a job and all of this. I can tell you firsthand, that's not the solution. I know it seems like it would just be the solution, and everybody should just go stand in line at social services and get the help and all of this. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it. And as I mentioned before, 5.2 million households rely on these programs. So if you think you don't know somebody that's using housing assistance, you may not know them very well, because chances are somebody in your neighborhood is using assistance, and it's not always glaringly obvious, So I just wanted to do a quick video about this. Hopefully this does kind of start some stuff in your brain. If you have any, interest in getting more information about housing assistance in your area, definitely I will try to do another video on what the best ways to do that are. I always have this idea in my head that I'm going to do this very organized video, but then I have to do it when it's on the top of my head. And today I actually had to go to a housing office today, so this was just on the top of my brain, so I thought I would just get it out there. So anyway, that is how the video is. What I wanted to title it was how I got kicked off the Section 8 program because I made too much money, and that was how. So I went from making $30,000 a year to $55,000 a year, and that did it. And I was very fortunate. I'm not taking anything away from that, because, I'm glad that we have these programs and they do exist, but I think there's a lot that needs to happen to make them more accessible and also make them more realistic. And, also I'm writing a book, so I don't want to put too much on my videos because it'll leave me nothing to write about. But during that same time, when I went from making basically nothing to making, and I was in a whole other bracket where I was almost considered middle class, I guess. I went from, being low income to middle class almost. But, very quickly I ended up in debt. And after I got my car, because it was so exciting, it was like the first thing I ever owned that was in my name. It was my own car in my name. And it was repossessed within, I think, a year and a half. Because my commission, like I said, the commission structure changed. And, me and the employees that I worked with at Comcast, we did gripe about this. We did try to do a town hall, because they said they wanted a town hall about the structure of commission. We did it, and we had a town hall, and it was like a phone call. And what it was is basically all of the supervisors and up, you know, regional managers and all that were all on the call. They all ran this town hall, and they didn't take any questions from any of us regular employees at all. It was just so controlled. It was basically just trying to diffuse some real issues that were going on within the infrastructure of that company. I'm sure they're still having the same problems. I mean, they're a major company. They're never going to go anywhere because people need internet, but I have questions about how they treat their employees. That's all I'm going to say. And that's why I left. And I haven't looked back. I made some great friends with people, and I had some great moments while working there, but that really screwed me up because I you know, I guess like they say, more money, more problems. The more money I was making, the more I was having to keep up with things that were just out of my scope of affordability, I guess. But, you know, I had a very basic car. It was like, let me tell you this also, I always lived within my means. I didn't go out to fancy restaurants. My kids never even, never took my kids to, you know, on trips, or we never went on vacations. I mean, I got a Hyundai Sonata and it was like a 2007 or 8 or 9. I don't know. It was an early 2000s Hyundai Sonata. So it wasn't like I went and bought a Porsche or like, you know, a Mercedes truck and, you know, took my kids to Disney World. I didn't do any of those things. I lived very basically. But, you know, I live in Montgomery County, Maryland, and this is an area that is very unaffordable for a basic wage person. So anyway, these are just some of the things I wanted to talk about in this video, and I wanted to explain to some people, if they're not familiar with these programs, how they seem like the answer sometimes, and a lot of people will put them, you know, in different videos I've seen about housing and homeless, and you know, there's a lot of judgment that goes out. I did a video about eviction because I've been there. I was evicted when I was working. I mean, it's just crazy the things that go on. We have to do something. We have to do something about housing. I'm going to keep doing videos about it because we have to. It has to get resolved, and we can. It's 2022. I mean, we can resolve it. It's not, you know, if they're spending all this money on these programs, they have to be run correctly. There has to be a better structure for them, for the people, and we have to demand it because we're the people. You know, I mean, we're the ones that are out here working, spending our tax money to have things run properly in our counties, in our states that we live in. And it's not about voting. I mean, I don't even. That's not where the main issue is, because I've had that come back from some of these people, because I've been in the Rental Alliance meetings and everything. There's like a Renters Alliance. There should be one. If you're watching this and you're in a different state or county, there should be a Rental Alliance group that you can find online, and it should be based in your area where you can get some more information and find out, you know, what's going on in your community as far as like evictions and rental and housing assistance. There are still COVID programs that are helping people, so that's good. So there are some positives, and I think there's going to be some positive things that come out of, you know, the COVID pandemic and all of that. I think there are going to be some good resolutions from that, but in the meantime, we have to work with what we have. So I have to just keep putting these videos out there and try to pick some people's brains and see what you think, or what are you experiencing in your area with regard to housing and renting and Section 8 and public housing and all of this. What do you think? What have your experiences been? And have you ever had this experience where you just didn't qualify for the program anymore, but you still couldn't afford to live where you live? So yeah, I mean, if it was just as easy to move, I would have moved, because, you know, I had kids in school. So anyway, so that's for another video. But let me know what you think. I would love to chit chat with you about this topic or any other that you've seen on my channel, and I'll continue to do the housing videos. Just try to get some other people's perspectives, and hopefully we can have some new solutions in the coming years that will help more people and be more realistic, I guess you would say. So in the meantime, hope you're well. Have a beautiful day. Peace.